when they no longer have the freedom to establish their own government anywhere, and they have to live under non-believing rule. Believers in the religion of Abraham alayhi al-salam submit to that rule until such time as they can once again choose fellow believers to rule over them. But submission to such non-believing rule cannot involve their participation in establishing that non-believing government. Believers will submit to such rule on the condition of religious freedom, that nothing is forced upon them that violates the law of the God of Abraham. While such a government will not be their government, they can advise and assist the government in all that is true, good, and virtuous, while warning, resisting and abstaining from all that is false, evil, and harmful. It is in the very nature of the modern secular state that it would never allow elections to be used to transform it into a different model of a state, such as a state that would recognize the sovereignty of the God of Abraham alayhi al-salam and the supremacy of his authority and his law. Electoral politics was meant to subserve the godless secular state. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared that the world of kufr constituted an essential unity, al-kufru millatan wahida, and this is precisely what has now emerged in the world. The Jew and the Christian should ponder over the fact that when the Muslims of Algeria used electoral politics to seek to restore the religion of Abraham alayhi al-salam in Algeria and won 85% of the votes in the national elections, the godless world all came together to ruthlessly punish that 85% of the electorate, which dared to seek to transform the godless secular foundation of the state. Thus, rather than voting in elections and legitimizing the secular model of a state based on shirk, Muslims should protect themselves from shirk by disconnecting from the secular state. They should also respond to it by arguing that the plural model of a state established by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a superior model of a state when compared with the modern godless secular state. A Quranic explanation for the universal shirk of the modern secular state. Our view is that only the Quran can, and has, explained this momentous political change that overtook the Euro-Christian and Euro-Jewish world, and then the rest of mankind. What is that explanation? The Quran has taught that the historical process would one day come to an end when Allah Most High ordains that the last day should come upon mankind and the world. Before that last day can occur, however, there would be a last age that would be filled with numerous signs from Allah, indicating that it is the last age. Among those events that would take place in the last age would be the release into the world of Dajjal, the false Messiah, and of Gog and Magog. When released into the world, they would eventually become the dominant actors in the historical process, and it is they who would be the masterminds orchestrating this unique. When released into the world, they would eventually become the dominant actors in the historical process, and it is they who would be the masterminds orchestrating this unique and ominous transformation of mankind and the world. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared that the age of Dajjal, the false Messiah Antichrist, would witness the universal appearance of Riba. It would also be an age of kufr, since Dajjal has kafir written between his eyes. And it would be an age of shirk, since Dajjal will play the role of God and deceive mankind into accepting him as such. It is as plain as daylight to this writer that Dajjal is the mastermind behind the creation of the modern, essentially godless secular state and its system of electoral politics. This writer has based his arguments on the Quran and Hadith to the effect that participation in electoral politics in the modern secular state constitutes shirk and kufr. In the event of disagreement with the view expressed in this book, scholars should respond with arguments based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They should declare the specific conditions in which it would be halal for believers to vote in national elections. The blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared, "What is halal permissible is clear, and what is haram prohibited is clear. Abstain from whatever is doubtful." It now remains for the scholars, who are the guides of the believers, to declare whether it is halal to participate in electoral politics in the modern secular state. In order to deliver a satisfactory positive answer, the scholars must demonstrate, firstly, that it is not haram to do so, and secondly, that it is not doubtful to do so. And they must establish their response on the authoritative foundations of the Quran and the authentic Hadith. The secular state of Israel in the Holy Land. It is now possible for us to arrive at some conclusions concerning the legitimacy of the secular state of Israel that has been restored in the Holy Land. Did the success of the Zionist movement in restoring the state of Israel represent a validation of the Jewish claim to truth? Was it an act of divine grace? The secular state of Israel, like all secular states, is an abomination since it is founded on the foundations of shirk. The most basic characteristic of the religion of Abraham alayhi al-salam is that it is free from shirk. Secular Israel, therefore, most certainly violates the divine conditions of inheritance of the Holy Land. Thus, it cannot survive in the Holy Land. It will be destroyed. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has explained that a Muslim army that would emerge from Khorasan would destroy the state of Israel. That army would emerge after Imam al-Mahdi emerges, and with him the Islamic Caliphate is restored. The restoration of the Islamic Caliphate would thus result in the destruction of Israel. This would be the third and last such event. The first time a Babylonian army was used to destroy Israel. The second time it was a Roman army, and now for the last time, it would be a Muslim army. But there are many other political reasons for rejecting the claim that the restoration of the state of Israel in the Holy Land was an act of divine grace, representing a validation of the Jewish claim to truth. Firstly, it would be a fundamental contradiction that a godless modern European people who live a decadent life and who oppress others should be the means through whom divine grace should reach the Jewish people, and through whom truth is validated. Means must conform to ends. Secondly, the method through which Israel was restored involved the expulsion from the Holy Land of a people who worship the God of Abraham, alayhi al-salam. They were expelled for no reason other than that they were not Jews. This constitutes oppression. In addition, since the creation of Israel, oppression against the Arabs, Muslim as well as Christian, who live in and around the Holy Land, has constantly increased. An act of divine grace is incompatible with such oppression. Thirdly, when Israel was created, it was clear that there was no respect for the sacred in the consciousness of those who created the state. The godlessness, corruption, sexual immorality, and decadence of Israel in no way differ from that of the godless European civilization. This cannot be conceived of as an act of divine grace. Indeed, the secular state of Israel has brought into the Holy Land such unparalleled corruption and decadence that even sexual slavery now thrives. This is the opposite of righteousness. Indeed, it is a pagan society that now exists in the Holy Land. A pagan state in the Holy Land. The Jewish state of Israel is, in fact, a pagan state that displays all the mores and morals of paganism. Any Jew who is convinced that the events of the return of the Jews to the Holy Land and the restoration of the state of Israel represent progress towards the return of the Golden Age and the validation of Judaism as truth must shudder at the following recent news articles in the Jerusalem Post, which confirm the pagan way of life, which now thrives in the Holy Land. According to police statistics, there are more than 200 brothels, 200 sex clubs, and an unknown number of offices providing call girls throughout the country. Yael Dayan, chair of the Knesset Committee on the Status of Women, estimates that there are about 1 million visits each month to prostitutes, both of the storefront or streetwalker variety, and those who work in the higher class escort services. Some 50 to 60 health clubs operate in the few blocks around Tel Aviv's old central bus station alone, with other concentrations in Haifa, Jerusalem, Netanya, Beersheba, Ashkelon, Ashdod, and Eilat. The back pages of local papers in many cities are filled with ads for sex services, as well as discreet help-wanted ads trying to recruit women to the trade, Jerusalem Post, August 28, 2000. In recent months, the media have been filled with revelations about the extent of white slavery in Israel. Women are being sold as chattels from one pimp to another. Approximately 25,000 sexual transactions for money take place every day in Israel, coupled with the conviction of Defense Minister Yitzhak Mordecai for aggravated sexual assault and his subsequent judicial pardon. Those revelations have provoked a great deal of discussion about the value of a woman's body in Israeli society. Though Israeli society may have lagged at the start of the revolution, today, the sexual practices of Israelis are, with the exception of the religious, virtually indistinguishable from citizens of other Western countries. The absence of consent makes the actions of Mordecai and those who buy and sell women on auction blocks both morally and legally far more reprehensible than the everyday casual sexual encounter. But their actions reflect commonplace ways of viewing others. Jerusalem Post, May 10, 2001. Another report from an Israeli who occupies a very high position in that society is even more revealing of the nature and extent of oppression in the Jewish state. In public remarks that shocked Israelis, a former head of the Israeli Domestic Security Service blamed government policies for triggering the Palestinian revolt. Ami Ayalon, retired head of the Shin Bet Security Service, said Israel is guilty of apartheid policies that go against the spirit of Judaism. He suggested that the Palestinians were following a logic in choosing violence, and spoke of the profound humiliation that Israel inflicts on Palestinian workers and others who seek to enter Israel. Such comments are commonly heard from Palestinians and outsiders, but rarely from an Israeli who has held senior-level positions in the security establishment. Jerusalem Post, Tuesday, December 4, 2000. Indeed, the President of Israel himself has unwittingly confirmed the oppression visited upon a hapless Palestinian people who resist the Jewish state with the Intifada. If they have any sense of logic, the Palestinians will open their eyes and realize where this evil path has taken them. Hundreds of dead and thousands of injured. Even though we have exercised restraint, poverty and deprivation, heavy unemployment, irreversible damage to the economy, a collapsing administrative network, and in addition to all that, they have not advanced politically. Israeli President Katsov, Jerusalem Post, February 16, 2001. The president betrayed his contempt for Arabs in the typical way that modern, godless modernity has cultivated. There are neighbors here, but it seems as if at a distance of a few hundred meters away, there are people who don't belong to our continent, to our world, but actually belong to a different galaxy. President Moshe Katsov, Jerusalem Post, May 11, 2001. Dan Jacobson, a professor at Tel Aviv University, had this to say about Israeli justice. For 52 years, the Arab minority has been shamefully discriminated against. Consistent land expropriation is but one of the harsher expressions of this discrimination. Denial of jobs in the civil service, major government companies, and publicly owned companies. The meager resources allocated to education and health services in the Arab sector. The embarrassingly disproportionate share of state budgets going to Arab municipalities are additional expressions of the Israeli Arab citizens' second-class status. These facts have been repeatedly recognized by successive governments, including those of the right wing, but very little have been done in the course of 5 decades to resolve the problem. Jerusalem Post, April 3, 2001. The above confirms that we are now witnessing the fulfillment of the Quranic warning that hell will come before their very eyes. And we shall present hell that day for Kufr to see, all spread out. They will be such Kufr whose eyes had been under a veil, from recognizing, accepting, and embracing my guidance, and who had been unable even to hear. Quran, Al-Kahf, 18, 100-101. Let us hasten to recognize that the new world order that has emerged in consequence of the dominance of modern secular Western civilization is one in which godlessness, racial, economic, and religious oppression, immorality and sexual slavery have embraced mankind around the world today. including the Muslim world, but the Holy Land is a special land. And the Quran is emphatic in its declaration that only those who possess faith in the God of Abraham and are righteous in conduct will be allowed to inherit that Holy Land. See Quran Al-Anbiya 21-105. Neither modern-day Israel or the secular, rationalist Palestine Liberation Organization appears even remotely capable of fulfilling these conditions. The Quranic conception of the destiny of Jerusalem insofar as control over the Holy Land is concerned, is therefore one in which neither Yasser Arafat's secular Palestine Liberation Organization nor the secular state of Israel will survive. Birds of a feather will perish together. The above arguments clearly demonstrate the invalidity of Israel's political claim to legitimacy insofar as inheritance of the Holy Land is concerned. This should not be something too difficult for a believing Jew or Christian to recognize and to accept. Jerusalem in the Quran, by Imran N. Hossein. Part 2. Chapter 2. The Holy Land and Israel's riba-based economy. In consequence of the wickedness and injustice of the Jews, we made unlawful for them certain foods, good and wholesome, which had been lawful for them. We have also done so because they obstructed so many from Allah's way, and because they took usury riba though they were forbidden to do so. And in doing so, they wrongfully took the wealth of others. Because of these evil deeds, we have prepared for those among them who reject faith a terrible punishment. Quran Al-Nisa 4:1601.